Have you ever wondered how people of different religions, who pray in different ways, speak different languages, and live by different beliefs, can still live together peacefully? In a world often divided by misunderstanding and prejudice, interfaith dialogue becomes a bridge, not just between religions, but between hearts and minds. In this lesson, we'll explore how interfaith dialogue, when viewed through the lens of peace education, helps us move from mere tolerance to genuine understanding and respect. We'll look into what it truly means, how world leaders have modeled it, the values it upholds, and how it connects to building a culture of peace, from the personal to the global level. So, stay tuned, because learning this isn't just about knowing others' faiths, it's about discovering how we can all become peace builders in our own communities. Now let's start by understanding what is interfaith dialogue. Interfaith dialogue is an intentional, respectful, and open communication between people of different religious or spiritual traditions. It is not a debate. It is not about proving one faith right and another wrong. Rather, it is about listening to understand, to discover shared values that can build peace, justice, and harmony in society. UNESCO defines it as a process of communication and cooperation between people of different faiths to promote mutual understanding and tolerance. Interfaith dialogue in the lens of peace education. Peace education is more than the absence of war, it is about building a culture of peace in the minds of people. It emphasizes respect, empathy, nonviolence, and appreciation of diversity. So, interfaith dialogue fits naturally within peace education because it promotes understanding and empathy, helping students appreciate how others find meaning and purpose in life. Reduces prejudice and stereotypes, by allowing real human connections instead of assumptions. Encourages cooperation, since different faith communities can work together for social justice, humanitarian aid, or environmental care. Builds social cohesion, where diversity becomes a source of strength, not division. Interfaith initiatives by major religious leaders worldwide. Around the world, many religious leaders have taken concrete steps to promote interfaith peace and cooperation. These initiatives show that religion, when guided by compassion, can be a powerful force for reconciliation. 1. The Vatican and the Catholic Church. Pope John Paul II, 1978–2005, led the historic World Day of Prayer for Peace in Assisi, Italy, 1986, where leaders of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, and Buddhism prayed together for peace. Pope Francis, 2013, present, deepened this commitment. In 2019, he and Grand Imam of Al-Azhar of Al-Azhar University, Egypt, signed the document on human fraternity for world peace and living together, in Abu Dhabi, calling for global coexistence, equality, and rejection of violence in the name of religion. The Vatican continues to lead dialogues with Buddhist monks, Jewish rabbis, and Muslim scholars to promote a culture of encounter and solidarity. 2. Muslim leaders. Grand Imam of Al-Azhar is one of the foremost voices of interfaith cooperation. Through Al-Azhar University, he has launched educational reforms and global forums that promote tolerance and reject extremism. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, and Muslim World League, MWL, regularly partner with the Vatican and the United Nations in promoting peace education. In the Philippines, Ustads Mahid Mutalan, as co-founder of the Bishop Ulama Conference, 1996, embodied this spirit of interreligious peace in Mindanao. 3. Buddhist leaders. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso, consistently meets with leaders of other faiths, including popes and Jewish rabbis. He emphasizes that compassion and kindness are universal values shared by all religions. Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Zen master, worked with Christian priests and monks to promote engaged Buddhism, the application of mindfulness and non-violence in daily life and social change. 4. Hindu leaders. Swami Vivekananda, at the World Parliament of Religions, Chicago, 1893, proclaimed, "We believe not only in universal tolerance but we accept all religions as true." His message laid the foundation for modern interfaith dialogue between East and West. Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, founder of the Art of Living Foundation, continues this legacy by hosting interfaith peace summits focused on conflict resolution and humanitarian service. 5. Jewish leaders. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, UK, advocated what he called the dignity of difference, the idea that peace can only exist when we respect and protect our differences. He worked closely with Christian and Muslim leaders on moral education and social harmony. Jewish institutions such as the World Jewish Congress actively engage in interreligious cooperation for human rights and peace. 6. Global interfaith movements. Parliament of the World's Religions brings together over 200 faith traditions worldwide to discuss ethics, climate action, and peace. United Nations Alliance of Civilizations, UNEAC, works with educators, faith leaders, and youth to bridge religious and cultural divides. In the Philippines, the Bishop Ulama Conference, Silsilah Dialogue Movement, and Al-Kalam Institute reflect these global movements at the grassroots level, demonstrating that interfaith peace is both global and local. Interfaith dialogue among global and local religious leaders teaches us a profound truth: peace begins when we listen, not to convert, but to understand. We've seen how popes, imams, monks, rabbis, and faith leaders across the world are working hand in hand to promote peace and understanding. But interfaith dialogue isn't only for world leaders, it also happens in our schools, communities, and even our daily conversations. To understand this deeper, let's look at the levels of interfaith dialogue, a framework that helps us understand how dialogue operates in everyday life. This concept was first articulated by the Second Vatican Council, Vatican II, in the 1960s, and later adapted and deepened by the Silsilah dialogue movement in Mindanao, showing how interfaith dialogue can be lived both globally and locally, spiritually and socially. Levels of interfaith dialogue, based on Vatican II and the Silsilah framework. After the Second Vatican Council, 1962 to 1965, the Catholic Church emphasized the importance of dialogue with other religions, recognizing that truth and goodness can also be found outside one's own faith. This spirit was later localized in Mindanao through the Silsilah dialogue movement, which integrates the idea of dialogue not just as conversation, but as a way of life and spirituality. Both frameworks teach us that dialogue happens at multiple levels, from the most ordinary human encounters to the deepest shared faith experiences. 1. Dialogue of life. This is the most basic level of interfaith dialogue, where people of different religions live side by side in peace and friendship. They may not formally talk about theology, but they express mutual respect through daily actions. Example: in multi-faith communities, families of different religions greet and visit each other during religious festivals. 2. Dialogue of action. At this level, believers from different faiths work together to address shared social problems, such as poverty, disaster relief, or peacebuilding. Example: interfaith volunteers collaborating in humanitarian missions for refugees. 3. Dialogue of theological exchange. This is the academic and intellectual level of interfaith dialogue, where religious scholars, leaders, and educators exchange ideas to deepen understanding of doctrines, values, and moral principles. Example: the Al-Kalam Institute, Ateneo de Davao University, hosting academic panels with ulama, priests, and professors to explore shared values in Islam and Christianity. 4. Dialogue of religious experience. This is the deepest level, where people share their spiritual experiences, prayer, or contemplation in a respectful and open way. It moves beyond words, focusing on the shared presence of God or the search for inner peace. Example: global shared interfaith prayers for world peace, such as the Assisi prayer gatherings led by Pope John Paul II and later by Pope Francis. Example: Mindanao, the Silsilah dialogue movement organizing interfaith retreats and peace prayers where Muslims, Christians, and Lumads meditate and pray together in silence. Now that we understand the different levels of interfaith dialogue, from simple everyday interactions to deeper theological exchanges, it's important to remember that dialogue is not just about activities or conversations. Behind every meaningful dialogue are values, the guiding principles that shape how we listen, speak, and relate with others. Whether it's through the dialogue of life, action, theological exchange, or religious experience, all these forms of engagement must be rooted in shared moral and spiritual foundations. And so, before we can truly build bridges among faiths, we must first internalize the core values that sustain genuine interfaith dialogue. Let's now move to our next topic, core values in interfaith dialogue. To make dialogue successful, certain values are essential. Respect, recognizing the dignity of each person and their belief system. Humility, acknowledging that no one has a monopoly of truth. Empathy, trying to see the world from the other's perspective. Sincerity and openness, being honest yet gentle in expressing one's faith. Commitment to peace and justice, the shared foundation of all true religions. After learning about the core values that sustain interfaith dialogue, such as respect, honesty, humility, and compassion, we begin to see that interfaith dialogue is more than just understanding different religions. It is, in fact, a path toward peacebuilding. When people of diverse faiths come together guided by these values, they help dismantle prejudice, reduce hostility, and promote genuine coexistence. This leads us to a deeper realization: interfaith dialogue is not only a religious or cultural practice, it is also a powerful strategy for nurturing a culture of peace. Let's now explore our next topic, UNESCO's 6 dimensions of a culture of peace and the role of interfaith dialogue. UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, identifies 6 key dimensions of a culture of peace. Each one reminds us that peace is not only about ending wars, but about transforming every aspect of our lives, our hearts, our communities, and even our relationship with creation. Interfaith dialogue, by bringing people of different faiths together in understanding and cooperation, plays a vital role in nurturing all 6 dimensions. Let's go through them one by one. 1. Inner peace. This is the peace that begins within the individual, a sense of calm, compassion, and spiritual maturity. Through interfaith dialogue, people deepen their spiritual understanding by learning how others find meaning, purpose, and connection with God. It encourages self-reflection, humility, and respect, values that allow peace to take root in the human heart. Because when inner peace is cultivated, it naturally radiates outward into society. 2. Social peace. Social peace refers to harmony among individuals and communities. Interfaith dialogue strengthens social relationships by breaking stereotypes and reducing prejudice. When Muslims, Christians, and Lumads, for example, in Mindanao come together for peacebuilding or community service, they build trust and social cohesion. This transforms diversity from being a source of tension into a foundation for solidarity. 3. Political peace. Political peace involves justice, inclusion, and participation in governance. Interfaith dialogue supports reconciliation and inclusive decision-making by giving moral and spiritual guidance to political processes. For instance, the Bishop Ulama Conference in Mindanao played a key role in fostering peace talks between the government and the Moro fronts, proving that religious leaders can influence political peace through wisdom and moral integrity. 4. Economic peace. Economic peace means fairness in resources and opportunities. Interfaith dialogue promotes shared responsibility and social justice by encouraging collaboration among different religious communities for livelihood, humanitarian aid, and equitable development. Faith-based groups working together in cooperatives, relief missions, and poverty reduction programs create a just and compassionate economy that benefits all. 5. Cultural peace. Cultural peace celebrates diversity as a source of beauty and richness, not division. Through interfaith exchanges, people learn to appreciate the art, traditions, and moral wisdom of other faiths. This nurtures mutual respect and a sense of shared humanity. In Mindanao, the tri-people concept, Muslims, Christians, and Lumads, embodies this dimension, proving that cultural harmony strengthens peace. 6. Environmental peace. Lastly, environmental peace reminds us that the earth is a trust, a gift from God that all religions are called to protect. Interfaith dialogue encourages ecological awareness and shared stewardship. When faith communities plant trees, clean rivers, or advocate for sustainable living together, they practice eco-peacebuilding, living out the belief that caring for creation is a sacred duty. Now that we've seen how interfaith dialogue contributes to building a culture of peace, it's also important to recognize that this journey is not always easy. Promoting dialogue among people of different faiths often encounters barriers, such as prejudice, misunderstanding, political tensions, or even fear of losing one's identity. Yet, within these difficulties also lie opportunities, moments where deeper understanding, reconciliation, and cooperation can grow. As peace educators and advocates, it's crucial to examine both sides, the challenges that hinder interfaith dialogue, and the opportunities that can strengthen it in our schools, communities, and even in Mindanao's context. Let's now move to our final topic, challenges and opportunities in interfaith dialogue. Challenges and opportunities in interfaith dialogue. While interfaith dialogue brings so much hope for unity and peace, it also faces several challenges that educators, leaders, and communities must be aware of. 1. Misinterpretation or fear of syncretism. One common challenge is the fear that engaging in interfaith dialogue means mixing religions or compromising one's faith. Some people worry that by participating in dialogue, they are weakening their religious identity. However, this is a misunderstanding. True interfaith dialogue does not aim to merge religions, it seeks mutual understanding while each person remains firm in their own beliefs. For example, in Mindanao, Muslim and Christian leaders who join interfaith activities do so not to change each other's faith, but to work together for peace and social harmony. 2. Lack of knowledge about one's own or others' faith. Another barrier is ignorance or misinformation, when people don't fully understand their own religious teachings or have misconceptions about others. This can lead to shallow conversations or even unintentional disrespect. That's why education plays a vital role. Peace educators, like us, must help students learn about the major world religions, understand their teachings on peace, and discover the shared moral values, like justice, compassion, and mercy, that unite humanity. 3. Prejudices inherited from past conflicts. Historical wounds and intergroup conflicts have created deep divisions, especially in areas like Mindanao, where communities have long experienced mistrust. These prejudices are often passed down through generations, making reconciliation harder. However, dialogue gives people the space to listen, forgive, and rebuild relationships. For instance, programs like Silsilah dialogue movement in Zamboanga City continue to bridge Muslim-Christian relations through education, spirituality, and shared community work. Turning challenges into opportunities. Each of these challenges is, in reality, an opportunity for transformation. They remind us of the need to unlearn biases that divide communities, promote dialogue skills such as active listening and empathy, strengthen peace literacy, helping students understand how peace, faith, and respect are interconnected. In the end, interfaith dialogue is not just a response to conflict, it is a lifelong learning process that helps build the foundations of peace in our hearts, our classrooms, and our communities. As students of peace education, we are not only learning theories, we are shaping a new way of living. Interfaith dialogue invites us to become bridge builders, listeners, and agents of reconciliation. It reminds us that peace is not the absence of difference, it is the presence of understanding. Let us remember the words of Prophet Muhammad. The believers, in their mutual kindness, compassion, and sympathy, are just like one body. And similarly, the Christian teaching. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Peace is a universal calling. And through interfaith dialogue, we answer that call together. As we reach the end of our discussion, let's take a moment to breathe, to pause, and to reflect on everything we've learned today. We talked about dialogue, not just as an exchange of words, but as a meeting of hearts. We've seen how faith, when guided by compassion and humility, can build bridges instead of walls. We've learned from the examples of world religious leaders, from Vatican II to Mindanao's interfaith movements, that peace is not only an agreement between communities, but a daily choice made by individuals like us. Each act of respect, each effort to understand, each moment of listening, is already a form of peacebuilding. So now, let's take a moment to turn inward, to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, first, what qualities must a person develop to become an effective peacebuilder through dialogue? And second, can you think of an example of interfaith cooperation that you've witnessed or heard about, something that inspired unity despite differences? If you're watching this from my YouTube channel, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your answers in the comments section below. Let's make this a space for learning and meaningful reflection. And that wraps up today's lesson, a reminder that peacebuilding begins within us. Every act of listening, understanding, and dialogue contributes to a more compassionate world. That's it for today's lesson. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you won't miss the next one. This is Social Studies Simplified, where we understand the past, engage the present, and shape the future.